Have you ever met a man, neither strikingly handsome, nor wealthy, nor especially witty, yet strangely magnetic, drawing women in with just a few words? This isn't luck, nor is it some clever seduction technique. It is the byproduct of a still mind, a man who governs his emotions, knows who he is, and feels no need to prove it to anyone. In this video, we will explore phrases that may seem simple, but when spoken by someone deeply grounded in Stoicism, become invisible blades, cutting through to the deepest layers of the listener's mind. 1. I admire the way you see the world. It's uniquely yours. Some compliments make people smile for a moment, then fade, but others linger because they touch something deeper in the soul, something even the person themselves may not have fully realized. The phrase, "I admire the way you see the world, it's uniquely yours," isn't ordinary flattery. It doesn't target appearance, clothing, figure, or face. It reaches into the depths of how someone thinks, how they feel, how they approach life. And when spoken with sincerity by a man who has cultivated awareness and inner stillness, it leaves a deeper mark than any superficial praise. Women don't just want to be told they're beautiful. They want to be seen, not in the literal sense, but emotionally, spiritually. They want to know they aren't invisible in a noisy world, that someone truly notices how they think, how they feel, and what forms the essence of who they are. When a man says he admires how a woman sees the world, it's a rare kind of recognition. It means he has observed her, not in passing, but through how she responds to life, how she speaks of a book, a film, a belief, or a memory. It's attention that can't be faked, and thus can't be forgotten. In a world where most people are too busy projecting themselves, few truly listen. This phrase reflects someone who steps back, observes, and listens with a quiet mind. Someone who doesn't rush to judge, doesn't try to control or impress, but simply remains present, deeply enough to notice what others miss. From a Stoic perspective, this is mastery in communication. Stoicism teaches that while we cannot control the world, we can control how we engage with it. Through reason, patience, and clarity, a Stoic man does not seek charm through shallow allure. He looks for signs of inner strength, of empathy, of an independently thinking mind. And when he sees that in a woman, he does not hesitate to honor it. With calm, with simplicity, with weight. Saying, "I admire the way you see the world," expresses respect for her intellect and worldview, not fleeting emotion. It carries the message, "I've seen what lies deeper in you, and I respect it." In an age driven by appearances and shallow reactions, that kind of recognition is healing. It awakens confidence, stirs the desire to live authentically, and offers the safety to be one's true self. Unlike the usual cliches, "You're so beautiful," "You're so sexy," this phrase doesn't feel like judgment, but understanding. It isn't external appraisal, but inner reflection. The woman isn't pressured to perform. She is seen in her most natural state, and when someone feels that kind of acceptance, they open up, not out of attraction, but from emotional safety. That's why the phrase, "I admire the way you see the world, it's uniquely yours," holds a healing power. It says, "I don't want to change you. I just want to understand you better." It builds a connection beyond surface-level conversation. It's where two people can meet, not at the edge, but at the depth of identity and perception. In the art of communication, especially in creating lasting attraction, it's not about saying more, but saying what matters. Not about emotional manipulation with eloquence, but about offering a space where someone feels by being real. And this phrase is just such a species. Moreover, the uniqueness in how she sees the world is rare and priceless. It means she's not led by trice, not lost in the crowd, She holds her own view, her own stance, and has the courage to live by it. When a man acknowledges that, he's quietly saying, "You don't need to be like anyone else. You are compelling precisely because you are different." Most people grow up believing they must fit in, adjust themselves to be loved. So a recognition that their difference is what makes them valuable carries a healing strength beyond measure. One crucial point: this phrase only truly works when born of real observation. The man must prove he knows what he's talking about. He cannot toss out a compliment to gain favor. He must be able to point to something specific. What in her worldview moved him? Perhaps it's her compassion in speaking of someone who once hurt her. Perhaps it's how she finds beauty in something seemingly mundane. Perhaps it's her curiosity about a topic others find dull. Whatever it is, it must be genuine and profound, and that is the core. Sincerity. Stoicism teaches that all speech should come from clarity and integrity, not to manipulate or embellish, but to reflect truth, the truth in how we see others, and the truth in how we live with ourselves. So when the Stoic man says this phrase, he isn't testing her reaction. He's not probing or performing. He is simply sharing a sincere observation and letting the truth do the rest. When a woman hears it, if she truly possesses an independent mind and a rich inner life, she won't just be touched, she will feel affirmed, seen, and connected. And in this world, where everyone is busy curating an image, that feeling is more precious than anything. 2. I'm drawn to those who know what they want. There is a distinct kind of energy that everyone can sense. The energy of clarity. When someone enters a space with certainty in their eyes, in their voice, in their actions, we immediately feel they know what they're doing. No need for noise, no need to persuade, just presence, and the quiet confidence speaks for itself. The phrase, "I'm drawn to those who know what they want," is not empty flattery. It's not crafted to impress. It sets a standard for living. Gentle, yet firm. The man who speaks it does not intend to pressure, but to express that he is not drawn to uncertainty, but to self-mastery, decisiveness, and a spirit with clear direction. Women often face a flood of expectations and judgments from society. They were pulled by standards of beauty, behavior, even life choices. So when a woman truly knows what she wants and lives it unapologetically, she breaks the mold. She becomes a symbol of independence, and that is profoundly attractive. A man shaped by Stoic thinking does not seek relationships built on fleeting emotions or temporary allure. He seeks clarity, not just in words, but in actions and intention. When he says he's drawn to those who know what they want, he's defining a framework. He's not swayed by appearance, whim, or emotional games. He observes, and he chooses stability. This phrase also holds a deeper truth. I know what I want, and I respect those who do too. It's a spiritual alignment. He doesn't just value decisiveness. He feels a connection to it, because it's a quality he strives for each day. Unlike compliments like, "You're cute," or "You've got great style," words that could be said to anyone, this phrase is reserved for those with real strength, those who dare to name their desires and live by them. And so it becomes a rare form of recognition, awakening dignity and confidence in the one who hears it. In truth, many men and women go through life unsure of what they want, pulled by emotion, circumstance, the expectations of others. They shift intentions with their moods, lack consistency in their actions and responses. Such people often leave others drained. There's nothing so to hold, nothing to lean on. In contrast, someone who knows what they want radiates stability, reliability, and a sense of safety. From the Stoic perspective, knowing what you want isn't rigidity or selfishness. It's the highest form of self-governance. Marcus Aurelius emphasized living in accordance with reason and nature. Someone who knows what they want has taken the time to reflect, to discern what is meaningful and what is vain, and when they act with purpose, not driven by passion, impulse, or short-term pleasure. Thus, this phrase becomes, when a woman hears it, if she truly lives with intention, she will feel seen, respected, and in turn, drawn to the man before her. If instead she feels uneasy, confused, or defensive, it may reveal she hasn't yet come to know herself, and that the relationship may need time or deeper reflection. Importantly, the statement, "I'm drawn to those who know what they want," carries no demand. It's not a challenge, nor an expectation to prove anything on the spot. It's a simple, honest reflection of the speaker's own values, and because it applies no pressure, it stands as a respectful and open declaration. When a woman hears this, she has two options. 1. To remain silent, uncertain of her desires, a common response. 2. To speak clearly and truthfully about the goals, priorities, and pursuits that guide her life. And in that exchange, a meaningful conversation can begin. Not about whether there's attraction, but whether there is conscious companionship. In today's world, where conversations often revolve around trivial matters, social media, and surface-level interests, a phrase like this is a gentle awakening. It invites the other to look inward and ask, what am I really living for? Am I choosing, or am I just being carried along? And deeper still, when the man speaks these words, he's not merely complimenting the woman. He's making a promise to himself that he will not stray from his core values, that he won't be pulled into fleeting emotional ties out of loneliness or desire. He chooses to walk beside someone who knows their path, because he too is walking his. Language carries thought, and in this case, language becomes a declaration of life. A simple phrase, yet it embodies an entire value system of self-discipline, awareness, and inner direction. This phrase doesn't stir temporary excitement. It stirs serious reflection. It doesn't aim at impulsive emotion. It touches the sense of responsibility one holds for themselves and for any bond just beginning to take shape. 3. I'm not sure you're ready for someone like me. Some words are brief, yet carry immense weight. They aren't meant to impress, nor to show superiority. Instead, they open a space for the listener to reflect, honestly and introspectively. I'm not sure you're ready for someone like me is a prime example of such language. This statement should not be seen as boastful or diminishing. On the contrary, it is a calm declaration of personal boundaries, life standards, and the emotional readiness carried by the speaker. Beneath the gentle tone lies a strong affirmation. I have walked through layers of experience. I live with intention, and not everyone is ready to walk this path with me. At least, not yet. From the Stoic point of view, this reflects self-mastery and clarity in relationships. A man who practices this philosophy does not rush to seek approval. He doesn't need everyone to like him, and certainly doesn't mold himself to emotions just to maintain a connection. Instead, he observes, reflects, and speaks, not to correct others, but to stay true to his own principles. I'm not sure you're ready for someone like me also means I know who I am. I know the value of what I bring, and I'm not going to shrink myself to fit into the life of someone not yet willing to walk that journey. This statement invites self-inquiry, not to make the other feel inferior, but to prompt a deeper question. Am I truly ready for someone who lives with depth? Am I mature enough for a connection built not on fleeting feelings, but on principle, responsibility, and meaningful companionship? A real relationship isn't just emotional harmony in the moment. It is a long journey that demands self-understanding, personal responsibility, and a shared commitment to growth. When a man senses the woman before him may not yet be ready, he has every right and even the duty to speak, not to create distance, but to protect the integrity of his inner life from unnecessary harm. Stoicism does not urge us to run from emotion. On the contrary, it asks us to understand its roots and let reason guide our actions. In this context, the statement is an act of reason. Instead of surrendering to instant attraction, the man pauses and sets a clear standard. A simple act, but one of great discipline. Not everyone is ready to connect with someone who carries depth, principles, and clear expectations. This says nothing of their worth. It merely highlights a mismatch in awareness and inner readiness, one that must be acknowledged to avoid future conflict. Some may feel challenged upon hearing these words. They may ask, who does he think he is to say that? But a closer look reveals this is not arrogance. It is advanced reflection. It is not to prove the speaker's position, but to help the listener see their own within a bond that demands emotional maturity and continuous awareness. This statement is also a quiet, yet profound challenge. It doesn't push the other away. It invites them closer. If they're truly prepared, the challenge isn't control. It's clarity. Entering a relationship without knowing your readiness leads to collapse, pain, and disappointment. So asking the question of readiness is an act of responsibility to oneself and to others. From another perspective, this is a statement of discernment. The man doesn't open himself arbitrarily. He doesn't withhold out of fear, but because he knows the power he carries isn't meant for just anyone. Those who know their worth are not quick to share their inner world. They understand that every connection needs foundation, and that foundation begins with mutual readiness. Another key point: this statement doesn't close the door completely. It simply says, right now, I'm not sure. That leaves room for change, for growth, and for building. If the other truly desires it, there is no condemnation, no rejection, just a quiet warning. If you want to walk with me, you may need to prepare more deeply. This is mature communication, where emotion is neither suppressed nor exaggerated, where truth is spoken, not to wound, but to make space for clarity and mutual respect. In a modern world, where many relationships begin with impulsive feelings and vague expectations, a phrase like this can offer a necessary pause. It reminds us to love. One needs more than emotion. One needs mental preparation, maturity, thoughtfulness in word and action. Ultimately, this isn't just something to say in romantic relationships. It reflects how a principled person guards their inner world in all relationships, friends, partners, family. One who has taken time to know himself, discipline himself, and live with direction does not allow just anyone to disrupt his peace over fleeting emotions. Therefore, I'm not sure you're ready for someone like me is a declaration of conscious presence. It elevates no one. It diminishes no one. It does one thing. It underscores the importance of inner preparation before stepping into a true connection. 4. I'm not easy. At first glance, the phrase "I'm not easy" may sound simple, perhaps even mistaken for a flirtatious challenge. But when used in the right context and with the right energy, it becomes a declaration of personal values, a profound affirmation of boundaries, standards, and self-respect. In a world where pleasing others has become a reflex, saying, "I'm not easy to reach, not easy to understand, and not easy to win over," carries weight. It isn't arrogance. It is the mark of someone who knows who they are, what they seek, and refuses to trade inner stability for fleeting validation. When a man says he's not easy, he draws a boundary, subtle but unmistakable. He shows that not all attention reaches him, that a glance or a compliment doesn't sway him, He won't offer his time, energy, or presence to just anyone, only to those who are truly worthy. This is not a game of psychology. It is the result of personal discipline and deep self-respect. The man who lives by Stoic principles understands that his greatest asset isn't wealth or appearance. It is his inner peace and spiritual energy. That is why he doesn't treat relationships lightly, doesn't open up recklessly, and isn't drawn to whimsy. To say I'm not easy is to say, I have standards. I am not defined by others' emotions. I choose who enters my life with full awareness. This phrase is a reminder that true attraction does not lie in being predictable or accessible, but in holding firm to one's values amid life's noise. When others see that you are not easily swayed, they begin to wonder, what gives him such certainty? Why does he have presence without even trying? From that, a new kind of attraction forms, not based on appearance or pleasing behavior, but on groundedness and conscious selection. This phrase also points to a truth few admit. Most relationships fail not from lack of love, but from lack of boundaries. When someone is always easy to please, agreeable, available, they become a target for emotional dumping, a placeholder for others' inner voids. But the one who sets clear boundaries from the very first conversation lays the foundation for a healthier connection. I'm not easy is also an indirect vow. I will not become a diluted version of myself just to get attention. It's a quiet assertion, without manipulation, without volume, but one that forces the other to pause and ask, who am I speaking to? What makes him different from the rest? On a deeper level, the phrase shifts the dynamic. Instead of trying to please, the man signals that he chooses. He's not waiting to be accepted. He's asking, are you right for the world I've built within me? Not with harshness, but with the maturity of someone who knows that every relational decision impacts the quality of his life. This phrase does not belittle the other. On the contrary, it invites their awareness and seriousness. If they are looking for comfort, easy attention, and shallow praise, they will feel out of place. But if they are truly mature, they will recognize they are standing before someone with depth, and that walking alongside such a person demands higher self-awareness. A man says this not to appear special, but because he once wasn't. He once gave too much, too quickly. He once poured his emotions into places that did not deserve them. And from those lessons he learned, strength comes from choosing carefully what we give. And this is something the listener will sense, that behind those words stands someone who has been tested, perhaps hurt, yet has not grown bitter. He has grown principled. In Stoicism, there is a core tenet. No one can take your inner freedom unless you give it away. The phrase, I'm not easy, is the practice of that principle. Not easy to enter, not easy to stir, not easy to compromise for temporary approval. It's also an act of healthy self-protection. When someone is not easy, they avoid much risk, toxic ties, aimless entanglements, and the disappointment that comes from trusting the wrong people. They are not closed, but they are not reckless. They show up fully, but open their heart only when emotional safety is present. And finally, when a woman hears these words from a man who speaks calmly, with clarity in his eyes and steadiness is in his voice, she won't feel dismissed. Instead, she'll feel invited to reflect, to ask herself whether she truly brings the respect and seriousness such a connection requires. Attraction does not come from being easy to reach. It comes from respecting one's own boundaries. And when a man says, I'm not easy, he isn't creating distance. He's drawing others in with the quiet strength of clarity, discernment, and inner maturity. 5. You've made me see everything differently. In life, each person carries a unique frame of reference, a constellation of beliefs, thought patterns, emotional reflexes, and ways of interpreting the world. These frameworks are not always built from deep understanding or conscious experience. Sometimes they are merely the byproduct of environment, repeated assumptions, or unresolved past encounters. So when someone says, "You've made me see everything differently," it is not merely a compliment and certainly not a social nicety. It is a weighty recognition, signaling that the speaker has been deeply affected, not by appearance, but by the other's mind, emotions, and spiritual presence. This phrase reflects an inner shift. It suggests the man has stepped beyond his habitual way of thinking and begun to see a part of life through a new lens, one shaped by the presence, thinking, or behavior of the woman he is speaking to. This is a rare kind of connection, one based on intellectual and emotional resonance at a deeper level, not on charm or fleeting chemistry. When someone alters another's way of seeing, it reveals a depth of soul, a capacity to influence through sincerity and authentic character. In the realm of communication, this phrase creates a subtle and intimate solace, where the man expresses not just admiration, but lets the woman know she has left a lasting imprint, not by effort, but simply by being herself. From a Stoic perspective, this is the mark of intellectual flexibility, a noble virtue in the journey of self-cultivation. A Stoic does not cling to outdated views when faced with a deeper truth. He is willing to revise his perspective when presented with clearer, more accurate understanding. And when a man says, "You've made me see everything differently," he is not posturing. He is signaling his openness to listen, to absorb, and to learn, even from someone who never set out to teach. That alone fosters enduring attraction and mutual respect. This phrase also functions like a mirror, reflecting the inherent value of the woman's presence. When someone realizes that their way of thinking has helped another reframe life itself, they feel meaningful, not because they are admired, but because they have become a part of another's spiritual evolution. This kind of recognition is never superficial. It requires a level of honest and careful observation. The man must know exactly what it is in her way of living, thinking, or being that disrupted a blind spot in his own mind. Perhaps it was her calm in the face of adversity, perhaps her deep empathy for others, or maybe the way she demonstrated composure and agency where most would react impulsively. Every meaningful act, every thoughtful observation has the power to touch the soul and compel self-reflection. And when that happens, it cannot be ignored. One must recalibrate, reassess, and in doing so, enter a new stage of growth. The phrase, "You've made me see everything differently," doesn't just create an emotional bond. It builds a foundation rooted in mental and spiritual influence. That makes the relationship no longer about attraction alone, but about a shared journey where each person becomes a mirror to the other's development. It must also be said, this phrase doesn't imply passively being changed by someone. It is not an admission of losing oneself. It is the acknowledgement that the other's presence has expanded one's view and deepened one's understanding of the world. It's a conscious process where the man chooses to learn, to open himself to transformative insight. In a world obsessed with being right, saying, "You've made me see everything differently," is also an act of humility, a revered Stoic virtue. Humility is not self-effacement. It is knowing one's limits and embracing the chance to expand one's vision. This is also how one expresses intellectual respect with authenticity. The man need not agree with everything the woman says, but he honors that through her way of thinking, acting, or being, a new door has opened within him. This phrase carries deep encouragement. It allows the woman to feel that her worth lies not in what's immediately visible, but in her deeper influence, where her thoughts, actions, and presence leave a mark beyond any single conversation. In terms of communication, this is among the most profound forms of expression. It is not flamboyant, nor does it put the listener on the defensive. Instead, it invites a dialogue of equals, where influence flows naturally, without control or manipulation. And ultimately, this phrase proves one thing: that real attraction doesn't come from trying to impress. It comes from the quiet power of living truthfully and clearly, in a way that reshapes how others see the world. 6. There is something about you I still can't quite explain. In the deepest human connections, there's always something undefinable, an element that draws us in, yet defies rational explanation. It isn't appearance, nor speech, nor a specific action. It is a feeling, an energy, a vibration that keeps returning, pulling one toward the other, without knowing exactly why. The phrase, "there is something about you I still can't quite explain," is an acknowledgement of that experience. It is not a tactic meant to provoke curiosity or create mystique. It is an honest response to an attraction that transcends language, a confession that the other's presence has left a mark the mind can't yet understand, though the heart feels it fully. When a man speaks these words, it signals he has reached a deeper level of awareness in the connection, where logical analysis no longer suffices to interpret what he feels. It's a moment when reason steps back and instinctive observation takes over, free of judgment, free of labels, simply recognizing the presence of something meaningful. From a Stoic perspective, recognizing what cannot yet be explained is not a sign of weakness or loss of control. On the contrary, it is an act of mindfulness. A Stoic does not reject emotion, but learns to observe it, place it in its proper context, and not be ruled by it. When drawn to something still undefined, he does not chase or grasp, but pauses, respects the ambiguity, and allows it to be, without needing to name it. This phrase also reflects a humility in personal experience. The man admits that even though he lives by reason, by discipline, by principle, there are still things that cannot be contained within his current understanding. And rather than reject or evade it, he embraces it as part of the human journey, both his own and the others. A connection only deepens when there is room for the unknown. When everything is defined, labeled, and tightly controlled, it risks becoming dull and shallow. But when something remains mysterious, a glance, a smile, an unexpected reaction, it invites return, listening, and continued exploration. This phrase is an acknowledgement of that recurring pull, a loop of quiet curiosity and lasting intrigue. The impact of these words isn't about making someone feel mysterious or different. The real impact is in allowing the woman to feel seen as a unique individual, beyond category, beyond superficial descriptors. She is not reduced to looks, profession, or common compliments. She is perceived as something outside the speaker's usual frame of reference. This is a form of deep reflection, showing that her presence has awakened a dormant emotion or revealed an aspect of his mind that had never been touched. And though he cannot yet explain it, he accepts it as part of the experience, without needing to control it, name it, or escape from it. Stoicism does not encourage indulgence in ambiguity, but it teaches that when something arises and stirs the soul, to deny it or force an immediate explanation is premature. Instead, one should remain watchful, like observing a cloud drift across the sky, present, real, impactful, yet not something that must be grasped or possessed. The phrase, "there is something about you I still can't quite explain," also opens a deeper channel of communication. It lets the other person feel respected, not for something she does, but for her very presence. Not everything needs a name to have value. Sometimes, the harder something is to explain, the more worth preserving it has. In emotional communication especially, allowing just enough space for reflection and imagination is a refined art. It doesn't make the speaker seem unreadable in a negative way, but invites the other to sense that there are layers yet to unfold. And that very lack of finality makes the connection feel richer, more nuanced, more alive. This phrase carries a quiet message. I don't see you as something to control or conquer. I accept this unknown and find value in it. In a world obsessed with defining, explaining, and owning, the willingness to embrace what remains undefined becomes an act of deep respect and maturity. At its highest level, this is a form of sovereign surrender to the beauty of the unknown. When a man says he cannot explain what he feels, it isn't due to inexperience, but because what he perceives doesn't fit into the molds shaped by past experience. And that is the mark of a connection with transformative potential, formed not by pressure, but by shared presence. The phrase, "There is something about you I still can't quite explain," is not just a gentle whisper. It is a manifestation of open-heartedness, without agenda, a state of receiving life as it is, without force, without label, and fully present. We don't need to memorize 6 phrases to become more attractive. What truly creates attraction is not in the words themselves, but in the inner state behind them. To me, the most important thing isn't what we say, but who we are before we speak. In everyday life, I've often found myself trying too hard to be seen, saying what I thought others wanted to hear, hoping I would be accepted. But the more I live in alignment with Stoic principles, the more I realize self-mastery in communication begins with letting go of the need to impress. When we are fully present, observant, aware of what we seek, and willing to say no to what doesn't align, we begin to communicate with calm, confidence, and honesty. Phrases like, "I'm not easy," or "I'm not sure you're ready for someone like me," are not tools to control others. They are reminders to ourselves to hold the line of personal value amidst emotional waves. And the phrase, "You've made me see everything differently," is an invitation to connect more deeply, if and only if it is true. In the end, living stoically doesn't mean being cold. It means being warm, selectively, and connecting consciously. If something I shared here stirred something within you, feel free to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss what's coming next. We don't need to be perfect to be loved. We only need to be clear enough not to lose ourselves in the process of connecting with others. See you in the next video.